We're putting this video out for the new Corp members when it comes to the PI, the planetary interaction, and the commodity production. Some of the new members haven't quite got the hang of it. They don't get as much out of the planets as they could be getting. There's a lot of ways to set it up, but I'm going to show you what's the most, in my opinion, the most efficient way to set it up. This is the way I've made tons of ISK in this game. Easy, free ISK. You're going to need a couple things to start. One is the skills. It's very quick skill sets, very easy skills to train. These aren't those battleship skills that take a month to train. The two most important are interplanetary consolidation and command center upgrades. Interplanetary consolidation controls how many planets you can deploy PI on. You get one automatically, and then for each level of interplanetary consolidation, you get an additional planet. The more ISK you want to make, the more planets you want. More important than that is command center upgrades. Even if you're only running one planet, you want this to be at 5. That increases your CPU and power grid for each planet, which increases the number of facilities you can have on that planet. The more extractor heads or the more factories, the more you can produce. Planetology, that's mostly for the resolution on sensing the commodities. As far as you're scanning the planet, you see the commodities, you see the concentration and the clusters of them. The higher this is, the more accurate that is. Level 4, though, is really, I've done this for years and years. Level 4 is as far as I've ever taken it, and it's been more than sufficient. So the time to level 5, as you see, is 14 days. I feel that that's unnecessary. And advanced planetology, so much as well. If you have nothing else left to train, sure, go for it. But I just don't see the extra purpose in putting out that kind of time for the little bit of difference that it gives you. Interplanetary consolidation to 5 if you can. Command center upgrades to 5 is a must. The next thing you're going to need is a command center. The command centers for each planet is, lava has their own planet, storm has their own planet. They look like this. I've already put one on a planet. I'll show you here in just a second, but make sure you load that into your ship. More than once I've gotten out and didn't have the command center. You'll need a cargo ship of some kind, something with at least 1,000 meters of capacity. Epithals, the planetary interaction ship that's made to carry PI materials, does not have a cargo bay big enough for the command center. So you'll need something else to deploy it in. Put it inside your hold, then you're ready to undock. You don't actually have to go to the planet, you just have to be in the same solar system and you have to be undocked. So once I undock, I am going to stop my ship. This way I'll remain tethered. Click on your solar system. We've got a lava planet and we're going to get heavy metals. So what you do is you take the lava planet, right click it, view planetary production, and you can close this window. As you can see, I've already deployed a command center simply because I had to reshoot this due to some graphic issues, and I hate wasting command centers. So normally what you would do is we want heavy metals, so you'd hit the scan button, which is right here. Find heavy metals. As you can see, this planet is loaded in heavy metals more than any other commodity. Click that, and then you'll see these different colors. This slide bar will zoom in and zoom out as far as the resolution. You want the white areas. If you can't get white, the darker red and red areas are much better than the green and then the blue. Blue, there's nothing there. You don't want to be scanning when you have this much white because you still don't know where the heaviest concentrations are. You want to slide that bar to the right until you get just these small pockets, kind of like that. And in this case, I deployed my command center right between these two. The command center can go anywhere on the planet. It doesn't make a difference. It's not necessarily connected to anything. It doesn't have to be, at least. And if you deploy the command center on the one side of the planet, but you decide you want to put your facilities on the other side of the planet, that's fine. The only thing to remember is when you click the planet to zoom in on it later, if you need to go to your planet, you open this up and you click and you zoom to the planet, it will zoom in on the command center. So if your facilities aren't located where the command center is, you'll have to rotate to find the facilities. Once the facility is there, first thing you have to do is the command center upgrades. It gives you the ability to increase the power grid and CPU. You want this at max. Hit upgrade, and and then submit. You always have to hit submit between these changes or it won't accept them. Now that we have the command center in place, you go to build. We want heavy metals, so we are going to build a lava planet extractor control unit. That large circle is the radius that the extractor heads will reach. You want to put that in as centered as possible to the high concentration areas, because over time these areas will shift. They'll grow, they'll shrink, they'll slide around to the left. This is all white today. Tomorrow there may not be any white here, maybe just red, or the white might have moved to up here or down here. So you want to be as close to it as possible. You have as much centered as possible. Click, hit submit. Again, you have to hit submit. Now that it's here, we'll click the extractor head. This is the program, the installation extraction program. You'll click that. Now, you have several things here to do. We want, what we say, heavy metals. So there's base, there's magma, there's the heavy metals. Click that, and you'll see that light back up. Program duration. This is how long the extractor head will run before it turns off. You can go as high as, I believe, 14 days and as little as 1 hour. The shorter the time frame, the more materials it gathers per cycle. If you set it clear to 14 days, it'll gather every day for 14 days. Each subsequent day will be a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less, but you don't have to do anything for 14 days. I like to keep mine at around 2 days. That way I'm not dealing with this every single day. I can put it on 2 days. It'll run for 2 days. Day 1 I'll get so much. Day 2 I'll get a little bit less. And then at the end of day 2 it'll shut off. Then I just log in. You don't have to do this all over again. You'll just, this where it says start extraction, it'll be just like that. You'll click the button again and it'll start up for 2 more days. Now that that's set, we click our extractor heads. That's these buttons here. Click the first one. You see this little circle pops out. There's a number right here. That's the quality index of the commodity you're getting. Right now it's 252. If I move over here, it's 278. 278 is huge. Most of the time it's between 130 and maybe 200, but this planet had a lot of heavy metals. Over here, we're in the 250s and 260s. So I'm going to go over here at 278, and I'm going to go ahead and turn on the rest of my heads. You want to use all 10 heads, which is why you need your command center upgrades to level 5. Slide these over in that same area. Don't overlap them. If you overlap them like I just did, you'll see these red numbers here. What that means is this head and that head are overlapping, and each head will receive 10% less materials. So keep them where they're just as close as you can get them without actually overlapping. And you can spread them out if you have pockets over here, or if there's a pocket. What's that pocket there? That pocket there is, yeah, it's 240, so we're still better off up here. Let me get these positioned, and as I mentioned, these things will shift, not your heads, but the white zones will shift on a day-to-day basis. When you, right before you hit restart at the end of its cycle, you have the ability to move these heads. So if it shifts over here, you can take this head and move it over there before you hit start. So now I've got all of them lined up here. They're all looking good, 260s to almost 280s. I'm at 2 days. I am on heavy metals. Start extraction and submit. Please hit submit. All right, now it's extracting, but it has nowhere for it to send it. So the next thing we're going to build is a launch pad. Click launch pad. I want that launch pad as close to the extractor heads as possible, because you have to link these together, and the shorter your links, the less power and CPU you're using. Click that right there. Submit. Now I'm going to link them. Here's the create link. Click there, and they're linked. Hit submit. They're linked, so this is now extracting all the materials. It's going to come into the extractor head. I want them in my launch pad as storage. So I have to tell the extractor head to send it there. Click that. Right here is products. Click that. It shows we're extracting heavy metals, and they're not routed. So I will click the heavy metal, create route, click my launch pad, and if I'm correct, it should error out. Create route, there's the error. This concentration is so heavy, it's more material than that link can allow. Just click anywhere to get that window to shut. What we're going to do, and on heavy concentration planets, typically anything 200 and over, you'll want to do this. You want to try to get there on that link and click it, just like I did there. If it's too close and you just can't get in there to click, you can just click the facility, routes, I'm sorry, not routes, links. There's the link. Click the link, or double click the link, and you get the same window. There's the link. We're going to upgrade the link. Just hit upgrade one time and submit. I've never had to use more than one upgrade on a given link. Now we're going to click the planet again on the extractor head, products, heavy metals, and they're not routed. So we're going to click heavy metals, create route it to the launch pad, hit create route again, submit. Now you notice the red ring is no longer there. It's now a blue ring. This is now running optimally. It's picking up all the heavy metals, bringing it in, sending it to the launch pad. But we don't want heavy metals. We want to use the heavy metals to make toxic metals. So to do that, we're going to put up basic industry facilities. And again, I want them as close as possible. And I'm going to put up 4, show you how to set these up. Then I'll pause the video while I set up the remaining. Hit submit. Okay, so now we've got 4 manufacturing facilities. We need to link them together. We need to make sure everything links in some way to the launch pad. So I'll link that one there, this one like that, this one like that. That's an odd one. I don't want to go across because it's a further distance across. I'd rather link it to one of these. It's a shorter link. Submit. Now we need to tell each facility what to manufacture. You can double click the toxic metals like I just did, or you can click toxic metals and click install, either way. But once you do it, hit submit. Each one you have to hit submit, and if you go too fast, it'll actually tell you to slow down, like right here. It's telling me to slow down 1 second, so I just wait a second, hit submit again. Go to the next one, install, hit submit. Make sure when you hit install, it's highlighting toxic metals. Normally after the first one, it'll highlight all the others the same. Install, submit. All right, these are now ready to produce the toxic metals, but it needs the heavy metals. Some people wait for this to finish its first cycle and it deposits the heavy metals in here, and then they go in here and then they hit the products that would be right there. Then they click that, create route. You don't have to wait that long. You can actually go to the launch pad, click routes, and it shows right now there's an incoming route of heavy metals. Click that, create route, then click your first facility, create route again, submit. Then repeat that process, and I don't believe you have to actually hit submit after each one. Let's see. Create route, facility, create route, facility, create route, and one more time. And then I can hit submit after the batch of those. So now they're set. The material is flowing out. They know to build toxic metals. The material's coming in to do so. But when you click on the facility, you'll see it's not routed. Once it builds the toxic metals, it doesn't know where to send them yet. So all you do is you go to each building in turn, hit products, toxic metals, create route, launch pad, create route, submit. And you do that for each in turn. Create route, launch pad, route, and submit. And these you can actually double click on. I can hit that, double click toxic metals, double click launchpad, and submit. Again, the red rings are gone. It's all orange, which means they're fully functional. This is a complete setup as far as materials coming in, going to the command center or the launchpad, going out to the facilities, being turned into the next product, and being sent back. I'm going to pause right here while I go ahead and populate the rest of these. All right, I've gone ahead and popped in the remaining As you can see, they're still flashing. That means they're not red on the outside anymore, so they're functional. They're just flashing on the inside because they're waiting for materials to come in so they can start to process. Once they receive the materials, that flashing white circle will turn into a solid white dot, and then it'll slowly expand around as the cycle time progresses. Now, I stopped here for a reason, because the CPU is limited, power grid is limited. As you put these up, each link takes a little bit of CPU. Doesn't take a lot, it's a very minuscule amount, but it does take up some. So I make sure I usually stop at around 9, 10, somewhere in there. Make sure everything's linked, everything's routed, everything's good to go. Then I check my command center. Click on it. I am at 89.2% power grid. Each one of these facilities takes 4%. So I can get 2 more on there, and I want to be as efficient as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and throw 2 more up now. If you do them all in advance, sometimes you'll find that when you're starting to link them, at some point, even that link will overload your power grid, and you wind up having to remove these, and it costs a little bit of ISK to do that. So now I will build 2 more. I'll just pop them on here at the bottom. 1 and 2. Link. Tell it toxic metals. See, route the materials to that. Make sure when you're doing it this time, you hit the heavy metals incoming, not the toxic metals incoming. Heavy metals, create route. Heavy metals, create route. Submit. And then last, I will route these 2 back to the launch pad. Submit. Now that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And that's roughly what you should have on any planet where you're extracting P0, which is the base raw materials, aqueous liquids, or in this case, heavy metals, and turning it into the next level, which they call P1, in this case, toxic metals. 1 launch pad, 1 extractor with all 10 heads running, and you should be able to get approximately 12 manufacturing facilities. Some planets, like gas planets, the distances around the curve are a little bit more, so your links are actually a little bit longer. And when that happens, you might get 1 or 2 less. But 12 is the rule of thumb. If you are at 12, 13, you're good. If you're at 10 or 11, as long as you only have 1 launch pad, 1 extractor with 10 heads, then whatever you can get out of the rest, just maximize it. And my guess is tomorrow this should produce between 8 and 10,000 units of heavy metals, or toxic metals, I'm sorry, 8 to 10,000 toxic metals. We'll pause here, and I will add that to the end of this tomorrow to see how many we actually get. Alrighty, let's see where we are now the next day. It's been about 13 hours, 13 to 14 hours, so it hasn't been a full day, but looking at our planetary, if I hover over the toxic metals, we're already at 6,240, which for a full 24-hour period, that would be 10 to 12,000. And undock. Most of you probably already know how to do this, but just in case, we're going to go ahead and pick all this up. Right click, go down to Customs Office, hit Warp to, and then while you're in Warp, go ahead and right click and hit Access Customs Office. Open your cargo bay. Toxic metals is what we were wanting. Slide that over to the Customs Office and hit Transfer. You don't have to pick up every day. You can pick up whenever you want. Every day, every other day, once a week. You can wait till this gets full. Your launch pad only has 10,000 meters of storage space, so periodically you're going to want to slide your materials over into the actual Customs Office. It has 35,000 meters of storage space, especially if you're only going to pick up once or twice a week. You want to be moving items over. You don't have to come to the POCO to do that. You can just undock, slide it over what you need to slide over, and then dock back up again. And as you can see, the production, we have 27,656 heavy metals, which are still working. If I double click the planet, we should see there's the white lines, which means they're still producing and they'll keep producing. Right now, that's a slight surplus. When you first run your cycles, you're going to see after a couple of hours, you're going to see a huge surplus. You'll see a few of your items in here and then a whole bunch of the raw material up here. But each successive cycle produces a little bit less and a little bit less, and it'll hit a point where I'm sure at one point, if I would have checked it, this would have been 100, maybe even 200,000 heavy metals just sitting in there. Now we're down to 27,000. In a couple more hours, it'll actually go down to zero, and all I'll have is heavy metals, and I'll be using pretty much everything that comes in will be going right into production. So at the end of your cycle, you should have no raw materials left and nothing but the material you're looking for here and what you already slid over here. So now I'll slide this into my bay and go back and dock up. And that's pretty much P0 to P1 production. We'll do another video on P1 to P2 because the setups for that are slightly different. Another footnote for folks who want to earn passive ISK, they want to make as much money as they can per hour or passively, some to help them to pay for their subscription to Plex out their account. This is an example. The metals we just gathered in 13 hours is worth right there at 3 million ISK. The next 11 hours on that 24-hour cycle would have been a little bit less than that. So let's just say over the 24 hours, it would have only been 5 million ISK. 5 million ISK times all 6 planets is 30 million ISK for one day. 30 million ISK times 30 days is 900 million ISK. If you use all 3 tunes on your account, that's over 2 billion ISK a month. So it is possible to plex your account just off running PI with one account. It can actually pay for itself just running PI. You have to have good planets, and this is from P0 to P1. Each time you take this up to the next level, its value goes up a little bit. When I take toxic metals and combine it with something else to make a P2 product, that P2 product is worth slightly more than the combination of ingredients that I use to make it. So again, it takes more planets to do that, and it takes more tunes if you're doing a whole bunch of it, but it is possible to plex your account simply off of running PI daily.